Welcome to the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasons while drinking an old-fashioned. If you're not already a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button now. Platforms other than YouTube tend to block some of our content. Subscribe now to get up-to-date videos and shorts as they release. Now, enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasonry while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian.
And I'm Russ.
Russ, well, first of all, whoever's watching, do not adjust your screen. You didn't get on the wrong channel. Yes, indeed, we have a Catholic priest sitting in between two Freemasons. This is our first non-Mason guest on the podcast. So, Russ, as you always do so eloquently, introduce this gentleman in between us.
Our special guest today is Father James Weldon. So,
welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes. Appreciate you coming and joining us.
Right. So, for those watching, and there may be some confusion, like, Bird, what in the world is going on? There's a Catholic priest on the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast. Isn't there this big dispute between Masons and Catholics? You know, we've heard all the rumors, the speculations, the myths, the urban legends.
He gets a little carried away.
We do, right? But so we said, you know what? We've heard all of this stuff over the years, but we wanted to get to the bottom of it. So we reached out, talked to Father James, went and sat down in his office. But before we start talking about why a Catholic cannot be a Freemason, we're going to do just like we do with every other guest. We want to know more about the man and not just the priest, right? So, who is James Weldon?
I grew up here in Wichita.
Okay.
My dad was born here in Wichita, so I've been a Wichitan my whole life. And so I went to Church of the Magdalene at Kellogg and Woodlawn, the old hamburger church, if you've lived in Wichita for a while.
I remember that, yeah.
And I went to high school at Cape and Mount Carmel Catholic High School here in Wichita. So, yeah, I've pretty much lived my whole life here. And
Did you play sports or anything in high school? What did you do
in grade school? I played soccer and basketball in grade school. In high school, I wasn't fast enough to play any sports, so I was pretty slow even then. So I'm even slower now. But
aren't we all?
So in high school, I was very involved in church groups and different activities. And I was in the debate and speech club in high school. So that's kind of fun stuff in high school, just normal high school things.
Yeah. Nice. So we talked about your high school. Mm-hmm. On an episode before us, we had a member of our fraternity, Carter Green, that he got an Emmy for doing the music for the Capon story here in Wichita.
Yeah, right.
So he kept correcting us and saying it was Capon. And so I don't challenge anybody, but if you say Capon, Carter, it's Capon. I'm just going to tell you right now, we're calling you out. Right?
It really is Capon. The man is Capon. The school is Capon. So.
You took my win away.
The family says Capon.
So, then that's right.
We can't really go against that.
No, we can't. We can't.
So now let's just talk about your journey, becoming a priest, and how did that work, and how long did it take, and sort of your journey to today, sitting here on our podcast.
So in high school, I really felt the call to the priesthood. And so when I graduated from high school, I applied to the Diocese of Wichita, and they accepted me as a candidate. Okay. And so I was in seminary for 8 years. So a Catholic priest gets an undergrad degree, college, in philosophy. You get a major in philosophy. And then so that's the first 4 years. So liberal arts degrees. You do languages, philosophy, history, literature. And then the second 4 years is in theology. So you don't actually study scripture or church history or any of that stuff until the second 4 years.
So if someone gets sort of the call later, but they have a bachelor's degree, then do that kicks the first four? Or
So,
does that work?
question.
my brother is also a Catholic priest.
Okay.
So his name is Eric Weldon, and he had his college degree first.
Okay.
So he had a degree in history. So he had to do 2 years of philosophy,
Okay.
and then 4 years of theology. So his seminary time
Great
was
question.
6 years.
Okay.
Whereas I went straight out of high school. I didn't have
Right.
any college at all, so I had to do 8 years.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was ordained a priest in 1998 for Wichita.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so you have served several parishes.
So I've had 4 assignments here in Wichita, and I was also out in Kingman, Kansas at St. Patrick's in Kingman for 6 years. So a total of 25 years of service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So now, before we talk about the reasons that a Catholic cannot be a Freemason, let's talk about some similarities. So let's talk about some similarities between the Masons and the Knights of Columbus. So what do the Knights of Columbus? Don't tell us any secrets, 'cause- but what do the Knights of Columbus do? And let's talk about some similarities because I know nothing.
So the Knights of Columbus is a fraternal organization of men, and it is a fraternal organization. You have to be Catholic, a Catholic in good standing, to be a member of the Knights of Columbus. But the Knights of Columbus are separate from the Catholic Church. They have their own finances, they have their own constitutions, and so all around the world, mostly in the United States, there's councils, and those councils exist, and they'll have a chaplain, usually a priest who's a chaplain for them, who helps them, but they make their own decisions. They elect their own leaders, and the Catholic Church doesn't tell them what to do with their money or what kind of organizations to support or what kind of activities they do. So those men, they decide that on their own.
So now they have degrees to become a Knights of Columbus.
Right.
They have degrees and
Right.
they go through ceremonies.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, nice. So it sounds very similar. Do each lodge of Knights of Columbus, are they standalone, or is there a grand lodge of Knights of Columbus that they answer to, kind of like Kansas? So
there's regions. So there's the state of Kansas. Then
there's a hierarchy.
Then you have the Midwest, and then there's a
Okay.
Supreme Council.
So, like in a lodge, in a Masonic lodge, the president or the head guy is the worshipful master. Does the Knights, or is there a guy that a person?
There's the Grand Knight.
It's a Grand Knight.
Knight.
And is that a year? Is it 2 years? Is it?
What is their term?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Is it 1 or 2 years? I think it's 2.
And is there like a line that they work up, like a succession line?
So every year they have elections,
Yeah, same with us.
and you vote to who's going to do what roles, what jobs in the council.
Yep. It's very similar, sounds like, to Masons. Your philanthropic efforts, is it strictly to Catholics and Catholics only, or do you do stuff outside of...
I would say a lot of them are for Catholic things, but then they're also they do food banks, and if there's a tornado or an earthquake or any kind of natural disaster, Knights will be there to help with that.
Okay, very cool.
And they'll help anyone.
Do they wear something in public, or like us as Masons, it's just normal clothes?
No, they don't really have any kind of clothing. There are sometimes you'll see them wear T-shirts, like they'll have their Knights of Columbus T-shirt if they're all out like building a house or something, or if they're all out volunteering, they might wear the same stuff. Yeah.
So,
but it's nothing that's required.
Okay, so like with Masons, they expect us to have trowels and bricklayer type stuff. So there's no like armor or swords for the Knights of Columbus out in public.
No.
Okay,
No.
Okay, please. Yeah.
So, Masonry, Knights of Columbus, 2 fraternities, and I know that before you and Brian talked about membership challenges and today how has society today changed the membership of the Knights of Columbus, and what challenges do they have? And
Well, we're going to talk about the similarities because I
Yeah.
bet it's simple.
So I am a member of the Knights of Columbus myself. So I joined that separately from like my Catholic life.
right.
But the Knights of Columbus, I mean, if you study their demographics, they're ranging older. They're in their population, and young men, is that the place where they're going to get their social connection with other men in a council? And I find that most young men, in their 20s or 30s, don't stand on much formality. Like they don't want to go through any kind of ritual, and they kind of shy away from that. And so the Knights of Columbus, they struggle to get young people.
Do you think the challenge today, social media and phones and
life's
men are also
distractions.
And people move around a lot. I mean...
But they don't know, but there's Knights of Columbus in every city, just like there's Masons in every city.
There are.
But
and there's Knights everywhere,
Yeah, and so we're tainted as a Knight and a Mason, that knowing what we know now, if I knew I was a traveler and would be here 6 months or a year, I would want to be part of an organization that when I landed, other than my church, I also have another outlet. So I think what's interesting with our lodge, we are the old guys at our lodge. We have a lot of new people joining it. We go in there and all of a sudden I think, we are getting old. We have young guys in there and working, and we have a lot of ritual. And for some reason, these younger guys have been inspired. So I think it's the younger guys are bringing younger guys in. It's really hard for us to say, hey, 20-something, come in, hang with the old guys. Yeah. We're actually cooler than the young guys, but that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other.
His kids don't think so. So.
Oh, my God. So those who you watch normally, Russ is the one that fires shots at me. I just had shots fired by a priest. So that right there, I'm keeping score on that. I'm remembering that for later, folks, because I feel like there's collusion on this side of the table, and I'm not quite sure why.
Yes.
So membership just in general with Freemasons in Kansas, since the 50s, we're down about 75%. How much do you think the Knights are off?
Well, I have no idea what that number is. I don't know.
You think you're down half?
I think our demographic is older.
Oh,
like even if we've maintained our number, like the pyramid is inverted now. You know, as far as the baby boomers, right?
Same for us.
Right.
We're probably our average age is probably 67, I think, something like that.
Right. Yeah, we covered it in. Yeah, I think I lost a bet.
We did. I was trying to sucker you into that yet again, my friend.
Yes.
Yet again.
I am learning, though, that I just cannot wager at all.
But most tuition is very expensive, so I'm glad you're learning your lesson.
It really is, and I'm about to lose one, too. But
Yes, you are.
So, Father James, what does it mean to take a vow? And so we're getting to some of that.
Right.
Hey, where are we at?
Where's the conflict?
Where's the conflict? So.
Right. So in the Catholic Church, when you enter the Catholic Church, you make baptismal promises. So there's 3 renunciations. So do you reject Satan and all his works and all his empty promises?
So as an infant, your parents would be speaking on your behalf.
So when an infant receives baptism, the parents and godparents, they make those promises on behalf of the child.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And then every year at Easter, the whole congregation renews their baptismal promises. So if you're a Catholic and you go to church on Easter Sunday, you would renew your baptismal promises.
Lutherans the same?
Not as much.
I bet Missouri Lutherans do that once a year.
They probably do. But
so,
for those who don't know, Russ grew up Lutheran. So, all right, nice.
So, in the Catholic Church, an adult convert for sure would make those vows or promises, him or herself. And then as an adult, if you were baptized as an infant, you renew your baptismal promises every year. And so a Catholic should renew that vow on his own behalf every year. And so that vow is the primary thing. That's what, as a Catholic, I believe in God. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I believe in the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, when we say we believe in God, we believe in the Holy Trinity. Yeah. And so we can't ever take any type of vow that would be some way contrary to that, or participate in any kind of worship that's contrary to that. Okay. Is kind of the nitty-gritty, if you will, of what a vow is.
Quick question. This is just off the beaten path a little bit. What if you truly could not make Easter? Can you then sort of, if you truly couldn't, if there was some...
If you weren't there?
If you just weren't there to do that, can they, come in and and then do it.
Oh, renew their vows?
Renew
they
their
could do that
vows
at any time.
At any time. But it's so
we do it formally on Easter with the whole congregation.
Yes. But
another time that Catholics renew their vows is if they are a mother or a father or a godparent, and they bring their child to be baptized because they're saying their vows at that time.
Right.
So anyone who has had their child baptized or has stood as a godfather or godmother has said those vows. Yeah.
So I learned so much about this, really with Russ and Father James. But let me tell you how naive I was, and I think you might know where I'm going to go. So I was talking to Father James. Hey, where do you want to meet up? We can meet at your place. So I met him at his office, and so I go in and said, "Cool office. I mean, it's just nice, laid out. It was kind of fun. I mean,
it's not as cool as this room."
Well, no, I don't know. Cool is relative. Can we agree on that? But it wasn't what I expected, and I don't know what I expected. So we had this great conversation. So as I'm leaving, it's like, hey, we'll get Russ. We can kind of catch lunch or like dinner. And you remember what you said? Because I was confused, and you're like, priest eat. Because I was so, and then I was like, he's gonna think I'm an idiot. And I called Russ, I'm like, this way. She's like, dude, he's like a normal guy. I'm like, I know that, but I wasn't trying to offend. I didn't know what's going on. So then, as he goes to come over, we're set up the meeting to shoot the podcast. I'm like, I can come pick you up, or here's my address. And Russ is like, you idiot, you don't think he knows how to drive? No, I didn't mean that. So Russ makes me feel bad the entire time about this.
That's my job.
It is your job, and now you have a cohort here. But anyway, I digress. Yes. So now the real reason that most of you are watching. So the question that we're going to ask is, what is the reason that a Catholic cannot be a Mason?
So as Catholics, we believe that the Catholic Church was given to us by God, that Jesus instituted the Catholic Church as the means of salvation for the world. And when you take a vow as a Catholic, you're participating in that worship and participating in the truth of the Catholic faith. And that anything that would somehow compromise that or would say we want to avoid religious indifferentism, that all religions are equal or all religions are the same. And so being not sure about...
Meaning because we allow other religions into our fraternity.
Right. So if people from all different types of walks of faith are joining in and participating in something as a Mason, that would kind of indicate to us as Catholics that we're saying, well, we're kind of watering it down to and you're trying to, and the good way of saying is you're trying to get to the base level. What do we all agree on? Mm-hmm. Whereas we might look at it and say, no, a Catholic has to water down what he believes in order to participate in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the lead up to this, as we've seen our followers and everything going, we have a whole group of Catholic followers. We can tell by some of the comments.
Sure.
Right. And then we have obviously more Masons. So as you have the answer, I know the Masons in their mind are like, there's nothing contrary. Mm-hmm. Some of the Catholics may be saying, I expect you to say that, right? But it's really kind of fascinating. So I ask a question off camera that I'm not going to ask, but I kind of pose this question to Father James. So maybe there'll be a part 2. Mm-hmm. But everybody has got a path, and this we told you this is not going to be controversial because we believe as Masons, and I know as Catholics as well, the more conversations that we have as humans like this, the less problems you have in the world. We may have some differences, some philosophical differences, but we're all human beings. We all care about making the world a better place and doing the right thing, and we all believe in God. We can agree that there's a lot of things in this world that we're against. We have way more similarities than we do differences. Fair?
Well, I don't know.
Ooh,
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what Masons believe. I don't.
You know what?
So that's a whole nother show.
Okay, that's a whole nother show.
That's another show.
So we're going to do this.
Yeah.
If we can agree off camera, we can probably talk about way more than you think we can talk about and not give away the secrets of a Mason.
Right.
We may have another episode coming up because we'll do some other research. So, but the most important question of the podcast, dancing person, So there are 4 things up on the screen. We have a taco. It doesn't matter. Beef, steak, chicken. We have a hamburger. It doesn't matter if you make it on your own grill, wherever you go. Pizza doesn't matter. Homemade. It can be cauliflower crust if you like that kind of stuff. And wings. One of these, Father James, has to go forever. It was never invented. Which one is it and why? And I know if you pick one that Russ has picked in the past, I know there's collusion, and that's why you ganged up on me. So
wings.
That's what Russ said. Why do the wings have to go forever?
Wings are just wings. I mean, all the other 3 have a million different things that you can do. But wings
are just wings.
Yeah, I can do without wings.
Yeah.
Folks, go back. There was collusion.
Check the tape.
Because his answer was nearly the same. Yeah. I feel like there's some collusion here. I don't know what's going on. Russ may not be a Mason the next time he comes back on the show. That's not true. But Father James, thank you for coming on the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
What did you think of this episode? To continue to promote Freemasonry, hit that like button now. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give us a comment. The Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where real Masons talk Freemasonry. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a comment.